this commission. The Historic Preservation Commission is a 9-member board appointed by the City Council and serves on a voluntary basis without compensation. The purposes of the commission are to promote the educational, cultural, economic, and general welfare of the city through the preservation and protection of buildings, sites, structures, areas, and districts of historic significance and interest through the preservation and enhancement of local historic, architectural, archaeological, and aesthetic heritage found in the city, through the maintenance of the distinctive character of the city's historic districts, and through the promotion and enhancement of the city's historic and aesthetic attraction to tourists and visitors. I would like to take this opportunity to ask the other members of the commission to introduce themselves. And this afternoon, I'll start from the audience right and from my left.
James Long.
Carol King.
Kamala Broadnax.
Dallas Hanbury.
Just like to welcome our other commissioners and to welcome our television audience and our guests with us this afternoon. We have two items we'd like to take care of. We start our business, and one is to adopt the minutes of the May 11, 2021 meeting. We had to carry it over from our June meeting. So first we want to adopt the minutes of the May 11, 2021 meeting, and the chair will now entertain a motion for the adoption of the minutes of the May 11 meeting.
I move we accept the minutes of the May 11th meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we accept the minutes of the May 2021 meeting. Is there any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Motion carried. And now for the minutes of the June meeting. The chair will now entertain a motion for the adoption of the minutes of that meeting.
I move we accept the minutes of the June 8th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we accept the minutes of the June 8th meeting. Is there any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Motion carried. As we begin our deliberations this afternoon, we have at the top of our agenda a presentation by Mr. Collier Neely. He's not here at this point. Carol, have you heard anything? Haven't heard anything? Okay, well, if he comes in, we will give him the opportunity to say something about whatever plans he has for Landmarks Foundation and this body. Our awards program, our committee, the Committee of Broadnax, Carol King, and James Long.
This year we had one nomination for award. You want to hit it, Mike? It's 528 Clayton Street. Next. There it is. Oh, well, no, go back one, please. There you go. It was nominated in the overall restoration category by Joey Breitner from the Cottage Hill Foundation. The property is a National Register district and in the locally designated district as well. Next, please. This is the restoration team. The Pattons are the owner. This is their family home since about the mid-20th century. They also searched a long time to be able to find a really good contractor. Oh, there we go. Look at that. You got that. Oh, that's great. Okay, next. This is the criteria that had been set for our preservation award. The positive impact for the historic resources in Montgomery, the overall quality of the work, the project's ability to serve as an example to others for historic preservation, and how did the project contribute to educating the public about Montgomery's history and architectural resources. You have a little handout there about the different points that we talked about in considering this particular property for an award, so you can review those. I won't go over those. Next. This was the property before. It's on the north side of Clayton Street, up sort of on the hill toward Hamner Hall. Next, please. These are all the different items of this. That was a before, and this is an after. The different things they did. They did a lot. Some foundation work on the different piers. They replaced the porch rails and balusters. They did an awful lot of work on that, and as you can see, it's very intricate, as well as the spool work above. On the west side, on the top picture rather, you can see there is a stained glass window and some really interesting vertical leaded glass pieces that they had stabilized as well. They stripped the wood, or had it very well scraped down and totally repainted. And then on the east side, or the right, the lower, you'll see that there's two windows that had been covered up from the bottom, and they opened those floor-to-ceiling windows back up again. So it was a fairly large project that took multiple years, especially in looking for a contractor. And they did adhere to, they worked with the city staff as well as the ARB, asking for, suggestions, direction, and adhere to all the regulations that they needed to. Next. They also did sort of a total package, rather, along with stripping the doors and the entryway that they made very welcoming. They worked on the landscape as well. They replaced the driveway. They rebuilt the retaining wall that you could see was really in disrepair, as well as the entry steps to the property as well, and finished it off with the appropriate historic plantings as well. So there we go. I nominate 528 Clayton Street, located in the Cottage Hill Historic District, for a Historic Preservation Award.
Any questions or comments?
What color is it?
Any questions or comments?
The question was, what color is it? It's kind of a soft beigey green.
I was trying to figure it out when I rolled past. Okay.
Kind of with a little gray too.
Yeah, I thought it was in the gray family. It's pretty.
This was all ARB.
Yeah, they
Worked really-
rebuilt the front wall. Well, some of it didn't have to come because they were repairs. I think the only thing they had to bring before us was the driveway, and there's the handicap ramp at
Right, on the
the
back.
rear. So what was you had a handout?
Oh.
What is the category?
Oh, it's overall restoration, is
Overall
what Joey had
restoration.
put it in.
Okay.
Comments? Questions? 528 Clayton Street, Cottage Hill Historic District.
And this is slated to be awarded at the October meeting,
Okay.
since we bumped it from May thanks to COVID again.
We want to go ahead, since now that we've got a
Sure.
quorum, so we can get it in the.
All right. Carol, let me just ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
I really appreciate the presentation that you just made. Is there anything, I'm really impressed with what I've read and what I've heard. Is there anything that you would like to add in terms of something that might motivate someone else, some other property owners, to do what the Paddens did for this particular property? What do you think motivated them and Joey Bragner to come aboard and join us in our effort to historically preserve properties? Just give us a little spiel on something of
Well, I
that
think
nature.
one of the, I won't say interesting, that's not the right word, but one of the most educational pieces about this is that this was a family that had owned this house. Most of them don't live here anymore, right? But, this is their home place, and they intend to keep it up. And so they've made the commitment, financially, to come back in and renovate this structure to have it there available for them. But it's as opposed to it being income producing or commercial property. In other words, they're going to hold on to this. They're not going to put a for sale sign out. And the neighborhood knew that. This has been going on for several years because it took them a while to get a really good contractor who could do all this intricate work across the front that you see. So they made a commitment to the neighborhood, and the neighborhood watched them too. Cottage Hill watched them through the whole thing, through the years, and the different, the different tasks that they took on. This is also a very highly trafficked road. It's one of the main thoroughfares, Clayton, that goes from the 5 Points up to the Hamner Hall at the interstate. So it's a very good example and very visible for people both in the neighborhood and people in adjacent areas as well. They did very good. They did a lot of research into some of the things they added on the back, which is why we didn't put that in the slide just because it was on the back of the house, but because they are going to use it for different of their friends coming in, that kind of thing. They do have a appropriate ADA wheelchair ramp on the back of it as well. But they also took into consideration the whole context of the house by working on the retaining wall, the steps, and putting in a little bit more appropriate and less intrusive landscaping as well, so that it really accents the house.
Okay, this is excellent. Anyone else has a comment?
Well, in our meeting that I think we discussed when we were discussing the house, and pictures almost don't do it justice. When the first picture that we did, you really have to sort of go and look at it. That the railing and that intricate work, it took them 5 years to come up with a contractor to do that kind of work. That is really impressive, and so it's very well done on this house. And I was really impressed by that, and the way that it all sort of fits together. And if you didn't know the period of time you were looking at, you would think that you were back at that time.
One of the small concerns that struck me is that the family doesn't live here. And they would take that kind of interest in preserving properties that's owned by the family. I think that's really something that we should stick a pin in. That the family, and in fact, the family doesn't even live in the area. Lives in the state of Washington, which is quite a distance from here. And for them to still have an interest in maintaining the integrity of family-owned property, I think is really noteworthy. Okay, anyone else? That just was sticking out with me. And here again, I'd like to commend the people, the persons on that committee, Camilla Broadnex, Carol King, James Long, for such an outstanding job. And Carol, did they ever mention to you just what kind of money they put into this? Not in terms of exact dollars, but generally, how expensive was this project?
I have no idea. And that could be because it was spread over years too,
yes,
as well.
Right, okay.
No, yeah.
All right. Well,
And of course, this awards program is for exterior.
yes.
So, although they did submit some really nice photographs of what they've done on the inside as well, so they pretty much gutted the interior as well. I mean, the award doesn't really cover that, so we didn't share that with you. But they've done a massive amount of work on the inside as well, totally sheetrocking on the inside and doing the floors and
Okay.
making it quite livable.
Right.
Once again, it's just that's not a part of this award, but that would have really been icing on the cake if it had been.
Right. And I'd just like to add, during the 1960s, when this family purchased this property, was the time period in which Cottage Hill was starting its upswing.
Right.
All of that had happened on the downside before the 1960s. People had begun to take a renewed look at Cottage Hill. And this is when this family purchased this property. And I think that says a lot about where Cottage Hill is today. The fact that the families there are taking such a keen interest in the welfare of the community. Okay? All right, sign committee, Dallas Henry, Richard Bailey, and Camilla Broadnax.
Dr. Bailey, y'all need to vote to approve that, but I have something I want to ask you before you do.
All right, okay.
Would you want to consider the contractor for a craftsmanship consideration, or just give him a plaque for the overall restoration for doing the work as well? I say that because we have money in the budget to do it since we only had one submission.
What I would suggest is that we take into consideration some of the comments that we've just made. This is not a casual project. I think these people put their heart and soul in it. And I think our response should reflect our appreciation for what this family did.
I think that's a good idea. Should we do another nomination for next week, or next time, or do you think that?
I mean, I don't think we need
reflective of his work.
I don't think you need a separate nomination. I'm curious if you would like to call that effort out separately. Either way, I think we have it in the budget. If you want to give the family and the contractor a plaque, we can do that.
And he is local, so I
Yeah.
think that would be a big feather in his
Let-
cap.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yes, let us hear from the committee members. What's your pitch
It
on that?
occurred to me when we were looking at it that whoever the contractor was that did that railing work and stuff is really good.
Yeah, you gotta know
And
a lot
that
about
was
wood.
very detailed work that, if you go back to the picture of how it looked before, you really get the impression of the work that was done there. I would support it for that contractor. I don't know if the guy that named in the paperwork is the guy that did that work.
We did.
But if he's the one who did it, his actions should be commended.
Right.
Well, I know on a previous occasion, it was for the Bibb Street Pizza. We recognized the contractor, and they came in later and said it was that so-and-so on their crew was really responsible for it, so we made him another certificate. So, I mean, we can do that too if we find out that there was kind of a go-to person to do all the detailed baluster and spindle work, so.
Right. And I also like to suggest, as I said earlier, if we can use 528 Clayton Street as an example of what can be done and as an example of our appreciation for what has been done, I think that would set kind of a precedent for what we do and might actually encourage some other people to take note and want to do something similar with the same kind of velocity.
And I think the Cottage Hill Foundation embraces that whole, I think they'll be very interested in acknowledging and
Right.
promoting this house in their district too, when,
Right.
when the time comes, so.
Right. Who has not been through that area and taken note of 528 Clayton Street? Who has not been by there? Okay, just one person. But you do know where it is. Right, okay. All right. Okay, good enough.
So do we need to vote on, do we need another nomination?
I second the nomination.
Okay.
All right. Any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by show of hands. Motion carried unanimously. All right, thank you very much. 528 Clayton Street, Cottage Hill Historic District. All right. Sign committee, and here again, let me, before I go any further, I want to just emphasize how much we appreciate the committee members for what it did with this project. Excellent, excellent work. Sign committee, Dallas Henry, Richard Baylor, Camilla Broadnax.
This is just on there to remind you that our deadline is coming up. So the sign committee members will be getting a packet of any submissions we have. Right now I have one, but it's really for two signs. It's for the Gratz Parsonage and Trinity Lutheran Church. So if I'll get photographs and everything and put together a package for the committee. And on the spring cycle, we'll start incorporating some of our new members in. But since we already had these committees set, we'll leave this one for now. But we'll start rotating Dr. Bailey and Ms. Browder into that cycle for the next year.
Christy, in this narrative on here, they said one of their goals was also to get their historic marker for their house in the fall of 2021. Do you know if they meant something
I don't
like
know.
that?
I don't know. I'll check with Joey and
Okay.
see if he knows, because I know he had communicated with the family.
Oh, okay.
I only had contact with the contractor, so I don't have any contact information for the
Okay.
family.
So, I mean, I don't know if they think it comes with it, you know, the award, and they may be talking about a historic, I mean, you know, the big one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they just called it a historic mark. They looked forward to.
I'll follow up on that.
Okay, all right. Anything else on the sign committee? Any member want to say anything?
I'm not on your committee, but if you'll remind me, we'll do a blast to the neighborhoods in the next week or so. Now, you know,
Okay, all
to
right.
the historic neighborhoods, because that's your audience.
Okay, all right. Christy, anything else on the sign committee?
No. And the only other thing I would add is that I have been told that we cannot use this room September 14th. So be sure to pay attention to your agendas, and we'll try to remember when we call as well. If we can, whatever we come up with for a different venue. It'll probably be the old council chambers, but I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our new commissioner who's with us this afternoon, Ms. Michelle Browder. And what I'd like you to do is to take about 3 minutes and talk about yourself, and take about a minute and talk about your mom and dad who are also interested in historic preservation. And if you do this for us, let them know anytime they want to come here and say a few words, they're welcome to do so. 3 minutes about you, a minute about your parents.
About my face. Well, thank you for I'm very grateful to be in this position and to serve the city of Montgomery. My name is Michelle Browder. I've been here for about 20 years now, making my 20th round. And I am a tour operator, I give experiences in history. And I am a fan of Mr. Richard Bailey. I have your book, was reading it before I came over here. But basically, I'm just here trying to give experiences to people that are coming to Montgomery, but a positive one, but also to enlighten them on history that they have not been talked to about or shared with. So basically, I'm just grateful to be able to serve. There is a house on 17 Mildred Street that my parents have owned for the past nearly 40 years as they work in the city, providing food for the hungry and for the working poor, and also returning citizens. And so that house is 17 Mildred Street, 1877. It was built, the Peppermint Ludlow home. So I'm grateful to be here because I'm able to learn about how to preserve and the steps that we need to take as we are getting ready to do that with that particular home there. And so my parents, again, have been working here in this community for about 40 years now. And my mother, I think, worked with you, Mr.
That's right.
Yeah, at Air University Library. So my father's first black prison chaplain, appointed by George Wallace. And so there's a little bit of history in our veins, along with the Aurelia Browder family and many other unsung heroes of Montgomery. So thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for joining us. And I just want to say, I was really impressed when I heard her father speak a week ago at Alabama State University, and I spoke after he spoke, and he talked about how he was appointed by former Governor George Wallace as the first black chaplain. And after he spoke, Governor Wallace's daughter, Peggy Wallace Kennedy, came to the microphone, and she just emphasized much of what your father had to say. And it was one wonderful program. And that's the reason I'm saying that I would encourage each one of us, if you have someone in your midst, your family, on your job who has a keen interest in history, to let that person know that you can always come to this body and say a few words. You just don't have to be a commissioner or whatever. If you have an interesting story that you think the people of Montgomery County would have an interest in hearing, we can give you 2 or 3 minutes. In fact, we'll stretch it to 4 if your story is just that compelling. But we want to let everybody know that this is what we are about, historic preservation. And we don't want anyone to have an interest in historic preservation in Montgomery County, and that interest remains a secret. I repeat that. We don't want anyone in Montgomery County who has an interest in historic preservation, and that interest remains a secret. This is the forum for that person to come and enlighten us, whatever your interest is, whatever story you want to tell, so that the people in our viewing range can hear your story. And believe it or not, you never know who's out there with a story that can augment what we're talking about and just give us a whole different view of something that we might not have ever thought about. So let's invite those people, your co-workers, your family, your friends, your neighbors, who might have an interesting story to tell, to come to this forum. We meet every second Tuesday, City Hall. Just call Christy Anderson, get on the agenda, and you're good to go. So, Ms. Michelle Browder, thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to get to work and do some other things here in the city of Montgomery, and with everybody's cooperation and willing to work, we're just going to let people know that we have the history here in Montgomery County, and we're going to illuminate that history as much as we possibly can. Christian, do you have anything else? No, sir. Okay. Is there anything one of our other commissions have that you got coming up you want to mention to the body that you think everybody should know about? Anybody has anything coming up?
Well, I would like to mention, because I would love to get some support or some guidance from the council here. The story of Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy, which were the 3 women that were used as the experiments with James, Mary, and Sims. We're going to erect a monument on the corner of Mildred and Sayers. So that whole property we're trying to preserve, along with the Peppermint Low Home, and then the first girls' school that's in the back there. So I'm looking for, this is perfect because we were trying to find a contractor to bid on the property for the aesthetics, the outside aesthetics of the house. So I'm looking for some guidance on where to go and how to do that. And so, so on September 24th, there's going to be a private unveiling. Would love for you all to be a part of that, of the mothers. And it's a monument that's made out of discarded items, metal, steel, brass, copper, but you'll be pleasantly surprised as to what is getting ready to happen in that space.
Okay. Now, tell us what day of the week that is and what time.
It's on a Friday. Friday, September 24th, starts at 5:30, private unveiling. Okay. And it's invitation only, so I'll make sure that everyone gets an invitation.
All right, good enough. Any question anyone wants to direct toward Commissioner Browder about this project? Any question you want to direct toward her on that? September 28th? 24th at 5 p.m. That's a Friday, she's saying. Want to try to be there. Support her. Okay? All right? Anything else? No one else has anything coming up you want to talk about, bring to our attention, whatever the case may be? All right? Just want to remind people that Ms. Paula Richardson, Paula Wade, is sick. In fact, she's hospitalized, Christy, am I correct?
She's not now, but she had been.
Okay. And we wish the best for her. And we want to thank Ms. Christy Anderson from our Land Use Division for coming out this afternoon, our fellow commissioners from taking time from your busy schedule to come out this afternoon. That being said, this meeting is hereby adjourned.